If this is your first time hearing about the Type 1 and Type 2 errors, sometimes it takes a little while for that understanding to sink in. Here is a story about how this might play out in a real school district. Our story begins with our superintendent, who has been away at a conference, and he's heard all about this really great new computer-based instruction and all the ways that this new instructional approach could benefit his 7th graders without using teachers or textbooks. He is thinking a lot about putting computers into his 7th grade classrooms and letting instruction be delivered that way. He realizes no textbooks and no teachers could save a lot of money over the long term. He needs to hire only teacher assistants who would serve as computer lab monitors. Our superintendent then calls in his deputy superintendent to share his idea with her. He explains all about using the computers to deliver instruction for 7th grade math and his idea about getting rid of the textbooks. Our deputy superintendent, though, is a little more cautious, and she says, "Hang on just a second." She suggests that before the superintendent makes such a sweeping decision district-wide, that they select one middle school and let it serve as a sample. She explains, "We'll conduct a pilot and see how it goes after one full school year." The superintendent agrees. Out of all 5 middle schools within the district, they randomly select middle school number 2. That school is going to try this out for one full year, and then later they'll have the data to make a determination about the whole district. In middle school number 2, all 7th grade math classrooms are converted to be computer labs. A lot of money is invested in the technology, but not in teachers or textbooks. Every 7th grader that school year takes the pre-algebra math class delivered by computer until the end of the school year. Then our deputy superintendent returns to the scene. She collects all the data from that particular pilot school. She analyzes all the data, and then she's ready to release her results. Our deputy superintendent schedules a meeting with the superintendent to discuss what happened in the pilot project, and she lays out exactly what she found. As she's explaining her findings, we need to realize there's really 4 different possible outcomes in this particular situation. All 4 of those scenarios relate to the 4 blocks within this grid. Let's look at them one at a time. First of all, scenario number 1 is that the computer-based instruction really did improve math scores. If the deputy superintendent reports to her boss that the computer instruction made a big difference in this scenario, which in reality it did, then she would be reporting the truth and our superintendent would be pretty glad, right? In this case, they are about to put in all those computers district-wide and sit back and watch those math scores go up because indeed, the computer-based instruction did raise the scores. In our grid, this would be in the upper right-hand corner. The null hypothesis was false. Remember, the null hypothesis said there was no difference, but in scenario number 1, there was a difference. If the null hypothesis was false and we rejected it, then that would be the right decision. We would reject that which is false, and so everything's good in scenario number 1. Scenario number 2 is another possible outcome. In this scenario, the computer-based instruction did not improve the math scores. There was no difference in scores between the 2 groups. If our deputy superintendent reports to her boss that those computers did not make any difference, then under this scenario, she would be right again. In this case, the pilot did not prove to be successful and the district would convert middle school number 2 back to teachers and textbooks. Because the deputy superintendent reached the correct conclusion by determining there was no difference when there really was no difference, then that conclusion would be in the lower left-hand corner of the grid. The null hypothesis is true. Since there is no difference, the deputy superintendent failed to reject the null hypothesis, which was the correct decision. Now, let's take a look at scenario number 3, which is where the computer-based instruction did not raise the math scores, but the deputy superintendent got it wrong. For whatever reason, she's reporting that the computers made a big difference when in reality they did not. In the world of inferential statistics, where we're just taking a sample out of the overall population and trying to make a decision, the conclusion we draw is just a guess. There is room for error. For some reason, the deputy superintendent got it wrong. She reported they made a difference when in reality they did not. Imagine what would happen in this scenario. The superintendent, who's really already leaning toward the use of the computers, is going to go in and replace all those 7th grade math teachers, get rid of all those textbooks, and invest an incredible amount of money in the technology for his 7th graders district-wide. But the underlying fact is those computers did not make a difference and an error has been made. That kind of error is called a type 1 error. It's right here where the null hypothesis was true, but we rejected the null hypothesis, thereby making a mistake. This error is often called a false alarm. Can you see why it would be described that way? In the field of education, this particular type of error is the most concerning. In fact, this mistake might be devastating. Imagine the cost that's invested here, when in reality it makes no difference. The loss of all those teachers and getting rid of the textbooks is a huge mistake for the district. We try to avoid the type 1 error at all costs. Our fourth scenario is when the computer-based instruction really does improve the math test scores. However, the deputy superintendent makes a mistake by reporting that the computers did not make any difference. Based on that information, the district would go back to having the teachers in the classroom using the textbooks, and they wouldn't go the computer direction after all. But in reality, the underlying truth is those computers did improve math scores. This mistake is a type 2 error, sometimes called a miss. The deputy superintendent, for whatever reason, missed the truth that the computer instruction really did make a difference. She reported that it did not, and this mistake, while an error, is not quite as drastic in the school business as that type 1 error. In education, this example illustrates part of what we mean when we use the term data-driven decision-making. If district leaders are really making data-driven decisions, they would carry out some type of educational research like we're describing here, where we look at it as a pilot, analyze the numbers, and then make informed decisions based on the analysis. Hopefully, this also helps you see those 4 different outcomes. 2 of them depict the options of arriving at the right conclusion. The other 2 options depict 2 different kinds of mistakes, known as the type 1 and type 2 errors. Hopefully, that helps you see how this all works in a real school example.